Uh, Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is James Sweets. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Meditations Across the King's River, African-Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. And I'm also the personal finance coach for Black executive men community. Today, I'm so excited because we have a very special guest, Mr. Bryce Tubbs. So for those who don't know, Bryce is just a dynamic, young, passionate leader and mentor to so many people. And one of his areas of specialties is he helps people, entrepreneurs, especially into accounting and build six-figure businesses. And he loves helping people. Bryce, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I know we've had a lot of talks over the last year and a half, so it was really great when you guys are doing this awesome series and awesome podcast. So I was really grateful when you invited me to speak.
Sure. Well, thank you for saying yes. I know you're busy. So, Bryce, generational wealth is something that's core to the uh, Black executive men mission. But one of the things that you said recently when I was asking if you want to be a guest, you said that when most people think about, well, first tell us a bit about your background, and I'll go into your question about what brought you into the finance space,
Yeah.
and then I'll go into the what I found so fascinating about what you told me.
Yeah. So for me, I was I didn't even realize one topic's gonna be like generational wealth. For me, I believe that they talk about in certain religious books, right? They talk about like gold being like wisdom and knowledge and information, right? And it's like it really is really a mental game is what I've kind of found. Being able to kind of I've always been good at seeing the mistakes someone else has made and being able to kind of put myself in that situation to avoid it, right? So I wasn't a person all throughout college, high school, and any grade, never got invited to drink, never got a chance to do drugs, anything like that. And it was just because I could see from people's experiences what to avoid. And it always has I never understood why that was happening, but even in life, it's always carried over to that as well. Finances, always making good decisions. And I really learned that from my parents, right? They would always have me do things that were slightly different than normally. Um I couldn't go on a lot of dates, couldn't do a lot of stuff like that. It was just always very strict, structured, and focused. Always thinking about saving money rather than spending more money than what I had. And when I started graduated from college, I had seen my mom, she was in accounting, basically get walked out of her job for asking questions that the boss didn't want her to ask. And at that moment, I was like, man, you can work your whole life and do the best you can, and still someone else can kind of control what's going on with your life and just take it away from you like that. And I started seeing a lot of videos online, people like Tony Robbins, Kiyosaki, and everything was saying you got to be in control of your finances to be able to go and grow your life. So I did what I knew how to do. I went into bookkeeping and accounting and started a business where basically what we basically help business owners do is we help them organize their finances. So know where's their business going from a financial aspect to know should they be able to advertise more? Should they save more? Should they invest more in people? Where should they move their money within their business to make sure the business can continue to grow? And one thing that I started learning, and one thing I kind of surmised from other people was when I was growing up, my parents always thought about lowering expenses. So it's okay, so we're gonna save money by just not spending quite as much. And what I started learning as I was going through sales and as I was going through different courses was that a lot of people that are making money a little bit faster and building wealth, they focus more on income rather than expenses. And once that clicked for my mind, that made life so much easier. And it's now one of my core beliefs that it's easier to be able to grow your income than it is to learn how to live on the expense side.
That's so provocative. It's like when you were first well, telling me this, it said it seems like what? It just sounds like on the front of it, almost like kind of like out there, so crazy. Like what? You mean it's easier to like make more money than it is to like lower expenses. I mean,
Yeah.
for the average person, that just seems like what? What is he talking about? Could you
Yeah.
could you
Yeah.
go into that?
It sounds crazy. But see, when we talk about the generational wealth and generational wisdom, that kind of goes back to like the way I was raised, just thinking differently. And like I was even talking to my mom today as I was telling her I was gonna be on this interview. And like, I call her every once in a while when it's like time to kind of like learn some new stuff or I just want to like learn and just expand my knowledge. And when I said that phrase, she was like, that doesn't work for most people. And I never really understood that because like what I've kind of learned in life is that you're really only a few set of skill sets, at least in this time period right now. You're only a few skill sets away from being able to increase your cash flow. For example, like you, James, like you're amazing as a coach. You have an accounting service, bookkeeping and accounting service. You have books, like you trade stocks and you're an investor. I mean, like all these different avenues and skill sets that you have that you cultivate. I'm sure you weren't born knowing how to do all this stuff, but I mean, yeah, you're killing it in the game and you're killing it in life because you know how to go and boost your income.
True. And I mean, for me, they happen organically out of
Uh-huh.
different loves. And I fell in love with the journey of finance,
Yeah.
growing and self-development, personal development. I fell in love with that journey. So, Bryce, what would you say? Like, could you give us some examples of things people could do? Like, if there was
Yeah.
several pathways they could take to like, okay,
Okay.
generate more income.
Okay. So let's say that you are working a job. So if you don't have a job, like I always recommend first thing, like people, if you can, maybe try and get some sort of income, whether it's like a part-time job, full-time job. It takes so much pressure off your ability to make a business work. Because for a lot of people, if you're not working with like a mentor or a coach, it's going to take you a lot longer than what you probably will think it will to grow a business. So you ideally want to do a business model that does not have a lot of like moving parts, and it's very easy to kind of get recurring revenue. So let's say, for example, like a bookkeeping business, that's just the business model that I like the most. Um, it's good because there's really only three elements that you have to really get good at in order to make it work. So number one is going to be your pricing. So you just need to know like how much you're actually pricing the stuff out. Number two is you have to get good at like the marketing element. So that's how you get people to be interested. Then you have to get good at sales. For most other business models, there's going to be four or five steps. So let's say, for example, just very simply like an online e-commerce business. Okay, so number one, there's going to be product. Number two, there's the pricing. Number three, there's marketing. Number four, sales. Sales, it might not be like you doing a consultation call, but it's generally going to be like you building your website to have the sales. So if you choose a business model that's simpler, you're going to be able to go and get to the cash a little bit faster than what you would for another business model. Another reason why I like the bookkeeping is because there's recurring revenue. For a lot of business models, especially if you see it like online, people will be bragging about they made like $10,000 a month for the first month. But in most businesses, month number two, you start back at zero. But with an accounting firm, if you get to 10K per month, you're generally going to be at 100, 110, 120 per year because the client will stick with you over and over again. So the skill set it takes to actually go and like make six figures is a lot less than for other business models that you see online. Does that kind of make sense?
It does make sense. And then are there other what else is shifting the economy to make this such a great need for this particular service?
It's really the way I like to think about bookkeeping, a lot of these online services now is like you take in a very traditional service and you do it in a new way. So the ability, like back when I first started my accounting firm back in 2015, like we were having to tell people that they could do bookkeeping online. Everyone thought like you had to come inside their office. So like that would have made it very hard for you to run like a six-figure firm because like, you could only take on maybe two, three clients if you had to be there 20, 30 hours a week. So nowadays, since I don't know if we can say this the C word or if it's going to like demonetize the video or whatever, but that event that happened in 2020 really changed people's minds to like what is possible and like the ability to like work remotely. So it allows us to be able to go and like get clients a lot faster, and they actually prefer for us to work remotely rather than have to be kind of like tethered to it. And a bookkeeping business is a good starter business to do. And there are other business online. So I don't want people to think that like we only talk about like a bookkeeping business. But in terms of getting your cash flow higher, you need to have something you can sell, something that's very easy to sell, and something that will keep paying you over and over again so that you don't have to worry about your income dropping. It's almost like first step to increase your income, you just got to find something that's like lateral to replace your job. That's what the bookkeeping does. Very, very simple. It gets 10K, 12K, 15K per month. When you start going to 20, 30K, that is where it becomes more of like a business rather than just like feeding your lifestyle. And that's where people kind of make that choice.
Then I believe you also mentioned when we're going back and forth about coaching as an option also for, could you
Yeah. Yeah. So once you get to about 12 to 15K per month, like the a bookkeeping business becomes more where you have to start like bringing on like contractors, start getting on employees. Scale, it's going to take a little bit more like labor and a little bit more time. So and like we have like different mentorship programs where we teach people a lot of this stuff. I like to, as soon as you get to 12 to 15 grand per month, you switch over and add an additional source of revenue where you can sell it as a package. My preferred methodology is coaching. Some people that's like tax planning. Some people that might be um one of my business partners, Sharon, she sells art as her package. So every time that she wants to go and sell like sculpture or pay for a vacation or pay for a new car, she just go out and sell 5 sculptures and make an extra 30 grand very quickly. So first step is get the recurring revenue to make that lateral step from your job. Second step is to go and get some sort of package-based sale, where in my case it's coaching, where you can now get those income bursts and you can be able to take care of like any like unforeseen expenses, vacations, or just wants that you have in life.
I see. Since we have Reggie joining us live, I want to ask Pause from Jax if he has any questions so far about anything you said.
No, well, first off, Bryce, thank you for taking the time today. And, this is definitely, it's eye-opening. We talk about generational wealth, and this is just some of the building blocks to get there. You know, um,
Yeah.
it sounds very simple, but I know behind the scenes, it's not that simple. So what are some of the struggles that you've had to overcome to get to this point?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first thing is the mindset. So, and I was talking to a gentleman, he started his business, I think like 5 years ago, and like he's has like an accounting business, and it hasn't really grown past a certain point, like maybe like, like three clients. And I immediately said, like, dude, have you ever like invested in courses? And he got very defensive. He's like, why would I invest in something if I went to college for it? I was like, well, okay, I've invested $150,000 in courses in the last like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, so basically it's another college education essentially on top of it. So it's like in the beginning, if you can buy the skill sets that you need to learn to be successful online, which in a lot of cases is going to be like marketing and then sales, that's when things become very simple. But it's like it's really once you have to kind of build those skill sets in the beginning, and once you build those skill sets, then everything gets easier. So like for me, for example, I understand how to sell things. So I can sell art sculptures, right? Sell them for five, $10,000 an art sculpture. I sell coaching. I sell, bookkeeping services. We've done like tax planning as well. And even though each of those products is slightly different, since I have the underlying understanding of sales, my income is always secure because if like something dies out, if I can't ever coach again, I could just go sell something else, you know?
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you for, sharing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you mentioned that, during 2020, a lot of people had to pivot with different things, and I think I don't want to call it like the hustler mentality in a sense, but you see a lot
Yeah.
more that people have, side hustles. But again, that's usually what it is. It's usually just a side hustle. So what
Yeah.
you're saying is instead of just doing side hustles, you're making this like an actual a
Yeah.
career move. Okay.
That
So
that 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 is perfect way to say it. That's
okay.
perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's more of a statement, not really a question, but it's just I see it that it's not as easy to kind of make some of those leaps of faith, if you will, just because
Yeah.
people are kind of complacent in their ways. So
Well,
even
it,
myself.
it, it also it also depends on the dollar per sale. That's a really, really important element. So a lot of online hustles, it's selling a bunch of like microtransactions. So it's gonna be like, we'll say like a $10 camera light or a $20 camera light. You have to sell a billion of those things to make any money, right? So even though you might be putting in like 100% effort, you just have to get so much traction every single month to sell more and more versus with like more of a one gentleman a long time ago said, look at what are the industries that people are making the most money in for like the longest. Like what are like the oldest ones? Insurance, right? Real estate, accounting, law, and there's other ones that of course I'm not going to mention at this second, but why are they still standing? Like why are they there? Like why do wealthy individuals tell their children to go into those professions? Because the likelihood of success is a lot higher. The barrier to entry is higher, right? Because you have to go to school, you have to go get more education for it. But once you're inside of it, the consistency rate and like just the economics of it just works out so much better.
Absolutely.
So and again, that kind of goes back to that generational wealth. It's a generational wisdom is kind of what I really like to think about it because like, even with that conversation with that gentleman where he's like, why would I ever invest in something when I've gone to college to do like why would I ever buy a course? Those those different mental models are going to be in his head. And that's probably only one of them, right? So maybe he also said he doesn't like selling stuff to people. I'm like, well, how are you going to have a business if you don't like to sell? And he's like, I don't want to be like chasing money. And I was like, okay, but how do you follow people if you don't want to feel like you're chasing?
Yes.
So it's like that's a big struggle, like overcoming any kind of like and like, I kind of come from a family that's I'm like mixed, right? So I'm like partially West Indian as well as, African American, right? So I can see the very distinct differences in the way that the cultures kind of have taught over different generations that make it easier for some to like become successful versus some people like you really have to kind of unlearn a lot of stuff and relearn a lot of different mental mindsets.
Yeah, that sounds great though. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So,
it's just good. Yeah, it's good. Good to hear this perspective as well. And James,
so
thank you again for putting this together.
of course. So question, Bryce. So the way how you said, okay, so I get started,
Yeah.
if I get started, they're they're going to follow a path to
Yeah.
generate more income. Then where do you see them growing from there in terms of like, okay, coaching, in terms of like maybe creating more generational wealth? Where do you see them transitioning into? Is it something real estate? Is it stock market? Do you have like a go-to for you that you follow?
It that also depends on your upbringing too. For example, like a lot of people they default to real estate, right? And like I like real estate. I just for me, I've seen the bad side of real estate. So I've seen, when dad would get a call at 3 a.m. in the morning because someone flushed a rag down the toilet and now everything's exploding, right? So I've seen the good and the bad side of a lot of the different things. And, it's really like once you have some good cash flow going, it's really about learning where to park that money so that it doesn't get bored. For me, for example, I know that every time my bank account goes over a certain amount, I get very, very, very complacent. So a game that I started playing with myself, and this is something I learned from a guy named Grant Cardone, kind of controversial internet guy. He talks about a principle called going broke. So what that means is you basically play a psychological game with yourself where you put it in some sort of either vehicle or bank account which you can't touch or can't have access to, and it causes you to keep getting more and more money. So I'm not like a super super big I'm not a financial advisor, so like my game is not really necessarily in the investing. I do work with a financial advisor, right? Who kind of helps me know like where to put my money. But every single time I get above like 15 grand, like in a month or whatever in my bank account, I gotta move that out. Gotta move it out. And I get super, super aggressive again.
Question. So as you look at your life now, where you are with this massive success you've had,
Uh,
and if you were to go back, let's say 10 years, what does your more spiritually aware
yeah.
financially worse, I'll say, to this younger version of yourself back then? Like,
Goodness.
like you wish you could instill this in you. What would that be?
Um, Back in 2015. So if I could go like let's say back in 2015 specifically, it's like the internet is never going to get better. Like Facebook ads were cheap. You could throw up a simple Facebook ad, say anything, and people are going to buy it from you. Nowadays, like there's a lot more skill sets that's required to make a lot of these online businesses work. But back then it's okay, so start advertising, invest as much as you possibly can in advertising, build your audience as far as you possibly can. Don't feel bad if you don't ask everyone for money, like give value, like it's okay to leave a little bit of money on the table now. And then make sure that you work as hard as you possibly can. And for me specifically, make sure your business is as profitable as possible. Don't care about hiring all the VAs. It's not about building a giant company. Just make the cash, make it profitable, and just bank that thing.
If you were to identify three things that you think hold people back from having the massive success that they could have, what would those three?
Yeah. Fear. Fear is one. Oh my gosh, fear, because it's like fear of the unknown. It's fear of like, let's say for me, for example, I capped off my advertising for a long time at like $5,000 a month. It's like if I was to spend too much money, what if the advertisement stopped working and now I just lost $20,000? Or what if what if something would happen? It's all the what if statements that kind of happen to you that really hold you back. What if I go broke? What if I sell too many people and then like I can't fulfill on my promises? What if I let somebody down and then like they start like a riot inside of a Facebook group saying that Bryce robbed me or something and I can never work again. And it's like, yeah, none of that stuff really happens to you within business. Not to say it doesn't happen in life, right? Emergencies happen in life, but I'm talking about like within business, a lot of the times the stuff that you think is going to happen negatively doesn't really happen to you.
Hmm. What are your favorite books on finance that you would say that we should be reading, or that you've read and you thoroughly enjoy, that you've had so much value?
Yeah, so in terms of like three books, maybe I can give you one that's on like finance, one that's on like income generation, and one that's
Okay,
maybe like on like an online business.
sure.
So in terms of finance, I like the Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's first book I ever finished. First book I ever finished. Um, Second one is actually I'll give you a fourth one. The second one I like is the Millionaire Booklet by Grant Cardone. Very small book, very short book, but it talks about like how to break down your financial goals into smaller goals, and then it just teaches you how to really think about money. It's almost like how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And once I kind of saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like it's not that far out of reach. I just don't have to do it all tomorrow. I can do it when I want to. Third book I like is it's called 10 Million by a guy named like William Brown. It's a very new book, but it basically takes you throughout all of the elements of an online business. Like he talks about the ads that he ran, he talks about like the time frames, just everything inside the book is amazing. The next book I like, which is kind of more about like your potential and like just expanding your mind, is the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I really like that book. That's a good book. I always come back to that every once in a while.
Wow. All right. I want to close by asking this question that I love to ask. What
Yeah.
do you think we could all start doing to, one, live a life that we feel is more purposeful, one? And how do you think we could have more happiness now, happiness and peace of mind? Because yes, generational wisdom, traditional wealth, but let's face it, a lot of people, a lot of people
It's
unfortunately
not
are
about money.
miserable
Yes.
anyway. So what do you
Ah,
is it for us that we could say, you know what, as of today, or I could start doing this to have more peace in my life or to have more happiness? What does it for you?
Yeah, for me it's less competition. So like I'm like I used to be a very competitive person. Like I was always trying to prove myself. So I'd walk in the room, okay, this person is better than me at this. This person makes more money. Oh, I can beat this person at this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, this person has a nice car. I can get a nice like and I was always so focused on like all that stuff and like proving myself and like I don't know exactly when it shifted, but there just came a time to where it's just like I I don't know. I think it was as I saw more of the world and like the people in the world, I developed more compassion and more empathy. And I stopped really comparing myself because I mean, number one, it's not fair because you don't know what has caused someone else to be where they are, like even if you'd want to go through those same struggles. And number two, it's like, it's it really comes down to like what does it matter what someone else has? What does it matter if yours is better, worse, or you know what I mean? It's all the ER words. Who cares?
Mhm.
And yeah, and nowadays I never want to kind of like walk up to someone who maybe doesn't have as much as me and like kind of make them feel bad that they don't have as much as me because it's like number one, I could like lose a bunch of money tomorrow and be like Donald Trump. What do you say? Like he was negative $1 billion, and the guy on the street was actually richer than him. And two, it's like, I don't want to make anyone feel bad, because I don't know what the cars they were dealt with. They could have had a $2 million in the bank, but got a huge medical diagnosis and it wiped out all their savings. So I don't know.
I see.
So yeah.
Um, as we approach 2025, what do you think? What are you doing? I mean, what to get us prepared for 2025? If there's like one thing that you think, you know what, this is what we should be doing to position ourselves not only for more generational wisdom wealth, but for happiness or success on our own terms. What would that one thing be, or that two things be? What is Bryce Tubbs? How do you approach this?
Yeah. So there's a quote I like to think about, like when they said buy where there's blood in the street. And I always hear that quote. But then there was a caveat to that quote that I didn't hear. It's buy when there's blood in the street, even if it's your own.
Mm,
And what my interpretation was that is like when I kind of look back at like my different investing journeys of like investing in the S&P and just different things, every time there'd be like a market crash and like I would like have this plan. So, okay, so I'm gonna invest this much money as soon as the market crashes. As soon as the market crashed, I would get shell shocked and be like, oh my gosh, it's not gonna come back. I don't want to invest more money. I'm already down like $20,000 in the last like 2 days. Like what's going on? And like it just really kind of taking a level head when that comes to that because like this coming year though everyone's predicting like recessions, more and more people are losing their jobs ever than before, and like the only reason I kind of confirm that is because I've never spoken to this many people in the accounting field where they're out of an accounting job. Usually for accounting jobs those are the last people to go, but the number of people that are like, oh yeah, I've been an accountant and like yeah, I just got laid off or this, it's like whoa, that's big. So if things get scary, like I would before you need to like start learning how to go and like, get a side hustle, get some sort of anything going. So if that job goes, your family be protected. You're gonna be protected and you can keep maintaining that happiness. And who knows? Maybe if you lose your job, you're gonna be able to spend more time with your family. You're gonna actually develop a better relationship. Maybe you'd be even more happy.
wow.
It's crazy.
Well, Bryce, thank you so much for joining us today. I really loved it. I'd love to have you back on as a guest in 2025 to share more of this wisdom. Rick,
Uh-huh.
thank you for joining us live.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure interacting with both of you today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would love for you guys, if you guys could, maybe go and check out our YouTube channel as well. If you want to ever learn more about, me and myself, go type in Bryce J Tubbs. It's Bryce, J as in the letter, and then Tubbs, Tubbs. I have 1,200 videos online that show you how to go and create income and build your wealth.
Okay. Well, definitely in the profile, I'll point out where people could find you, and I keep doing
Awesome, man.
keep doing the fantastic educational work you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Bryce.
thank you too, man. I love the work that you do, like the books that you have. I mean, like you have so many followers that are learning from you, and like your lives are you're impacting their lives, and like it's super inspiring when I see that, you know. So I watch some of your videos, I see some of your stuff, so like I really, really like the work you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Pleasure of love, a journey of love. Thank you. All right, then.
Thank you, Bryce.
Good day to both of
Thank
you.
you, James.
Yes.
All right.